welcome to our webinar. Today we will be talking about mastering predictability and quality for better business outcomes. And this is the beginning of our partnership series of webinars between Kanban Plus and Kanban University. And the idea to have this webinar was created during one of our community meetings, which is our Kanban Plus community. And the purpose of these webinars is to share the information about the Kanban method and how it can help to solve your business problems that you may currently have. So we encourage you to join our Kanban Plus community. Everyone who subscribes to Kanban Plus is enabled to join the community. This is a place where Kanban experts and practitioners gather together to discuss things, to share experiences, to ask questions. So everyone is welcomed, and we will be happy to see you there. And let's get to our webinar. Let me present our speaker today. It is well-known Marco Re from Italy. Marco is our accredited Kanban consultant and also enterprise services planning professional. And me as a moderator, the marketing manager of Kanban Plus. So today, during our webinar, we will really go through some interesting topics, and here is the agenda for today. So Marco will share lots of practical and useful insight with you about practical tips and really guidance, actually, on how to improve your processes and what data may you need to do it and how to actually get this data. So I really encourage you to stay tuned and to stay with us till the end, because I do believe this information will be useful for someone who is looking for solutions and who maybe is in the start of the Kanban journey. Also, I would like to underline that the topic of this webinar is Kanban basics. So if we have some accredited Kanban trainers or Kanban consultants, these people may find this information already familiar. However, you are welcome to stay with us if you're interested, but you definitely probably know a lot of things that we will be talking about today. So I'm passing the word to Marco, and let's dive in.
Thank you, Diana. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to anybody from all over the world, and welcome. Today I will talk you about on what what I experienced. Really, this is very much a presentation which is based on my real life experiences that I have when I started doing Kanban with many organizations. Many organizations also who claim to be already somehow structured because they already got some sort of practices in place. They've already maybe some ITSM practices. They're already applying frameworks. They're already doing things also in an organized way. But what happens is that when I ask them about operational risk and about prediction with a very simple question, which is how long do you take to do things, and what you promise to your customer when your customer is asking how long do you take to do things, they start doing they have difficulty to give an answer, right? And so first in the first session we will explore these challenges that I come across in many cases. Then in the second part, I will go through the solution I propose to such customers, which is the Kanban method and what the Kanban method can do to improve predictability and quality of what they do. And then we close with some conclusions and question and answer you may have on the topic. But let's dive into that. so the very first thing I try to get the businesses I'm dealing with to become aware is about the risk they take when they do things. And but when I talk to them about operational risk, they say, "What is operational risk? What do you mean by operational risk?" So here there is a question. The first thing I have to answer them to give them an answer to their question, to what I mean really by operational risk. And basically, what I answer is what is written there, that operational risk is the risk that, due to various internal or external events, might cause to take longer than expected to complete the work. In other words, of course, this is just a part of the operational risk, but the fact is that you have specific circumstances where, because of something that happens inside your business or outside your business, you get longer to deliver what you are supposed to deliver. So the next question I pose to them is how long does it take you to fulfill your work request, the request of your customer? And the typical answer is a single number or a question mark, right? But it's very difficult and it's very rare that I find people who are already acquainted with the typical matrix that we are accustomed to deal with when we do Kanban. So in front of a single number, I say, "Are you sure? Are you sure that is a single number?" Or how much this number is depending on circumstances, because actually that's changing. And sometimes they say, I have in mind one lady that was answering this question and said something like, "Well, if I'm under pressure, I take half an hour. If I'm not under pressure, I take 1 hour." And okay, fine. But how can you deal with that? So if the customer is asking, what are you replying? And given that the answer is usually pretty vague, I start introducing the concept of lead time, which is a concept that comes to us from originally from manufacturing, but is equally valid for services. So first thing first, I introduced the concept of work item. The work item is a customer-related piece of work. What do we mean by customer-related? Yeah? Very often people ask me, what customer? Why customer? Is a piece of work, isn't it? Yes, it's a piece of work, but it's customer-related. It's something that has been requested by the customer. So you're doing something to deliver a value to the customer. I said, okay, then that's fine. Okay. And lead time, if we represent it in a visual representation of a basic, very basic Kanban board, which is the one on the bottom on the right, it's the time we take to move the thing, the work item, from to do column to done column, right? So a very basic thing. And the key insight here is, but at that stage of the conversation, they are already coming up with that idea, is that this lead time is not a single number. It's not a single value, right? But is more likely to be a distribution of value. But the distribution of value is not quite clear what is it and how to do it. So I start really plotting down a visual representation of what the lead time is. So I say, imagine that you have a number of these work items, so this customer-related piece of work, and we start plotting them on a chart. we start plotting that on a chart where on one axis, on the horizontal axis, we have, say, the units, the time units. So in this case are days, but might be hours or minutes or whatever it is, depending on the service. And on the vertical axis, we have the frequency, the occurrences, how many times we record the same value, right? So we start putting dots on the chart. In fact, if you attend a training course from Kanban University, you have some simulation games where the trainers is getting you to do this kind of exercise to get acquainted with the idea. But for me, as a consultant, it's something that I have to do in my initial conversations when I go consulting people, and then you see that some values are repeated, and we see variability because sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it takes less. And we have repetitions. So we have values stacking up. For instance, in this chart, we have that 6 days is the most repeated value. So the stack on top of the value 6 days is the most frequent. And at that stage, I introduce another discussion point, which is this variance resonating in your experience? And very often people say, yes, yes, I see the point. But then I change them with the next question that is, all right, once we have plotted this distribution, these values on the chart, what's your next, what's the value, what's your next step? What's the value that you actually take as a value for your forecast? So if the customer is asking you how long do you take to deliver this thing? How long do you take? And we end up with many answers, not very many, really. Actually, the most frequent are these three. They might answer the average. The average, which is statistically is not a precise concept because average has to be specified better. But mostly people think of the mean, and where the mean is the sum of the value divided by the number of the values. Though that's not the real thing they are applying, because most of the times what happens is that when they say average, they mean what is called in statistical terms the median. So every half times you take less, and every half time you take more. So half of the times you take less than a certain value of that value that you indicate, and half of the times I take more. Fine, but that's not the average. I mean, we can call it average, but it's not the mean, right? It's another thing. Statistically, that's called the median, which is the 50th percentile. That means that 50% of the times we get a value that is less than the median value, and 50% of the time we have a value that takes longer than that. Okay, so at that point, I say, okay, that's seems to be a sensible value, but be careful that you're taking 50% of risk, because 50% of the time you take longer. And question, is a customer ready to risk that one every 2 times you take longer than what you have promised? Actually, no, they reply. Fine. So that's not a good value. Let's go on. Suggest another one. And you say, I got it. I got it. I take the most frequent value. Okay. Except the most frequent value in statistical terms is called the mode, which is the peak of the curve that in our chart, in our picture on the right, is value 6. But the point is that in the typical statistical distribution that we have of lead times, typically we have the curves that have a tail on the right. So we say that are skewed on the right, leaning on the right, the Q. And this means that typically the mode, which is the most frequent value, sits on the left-hand side of the median. So if the median is 50% of probability to be in time, the mode is even less. So if you take the mode, yes, it's the most frequent value, but the risk you take, this is a counterintuitive concept, but that's the way it is, you take a risk that is higher than the median. So instead of taking the mode, then take the median. But again, you're taking too much risk. So this conversation normally is closed with a warning, which is beware of the cognitive biases. The cognitive biases is something that we are all subject to, and we, by intuition, think that these values are reasonable, when in fact, if you see them from a more analytical point of view, we are not doing big statistics here. We are just at the basic concepts. But the basic concepts are telling us that we're taking too much risk for our forecasting. So we have to take a different value, and a different value is we see in the next slides, that is the 85th percent. So it's the 85th percentile, which is taking 15% of risk, which means that once in 7 times I get late, that for services is considered an acceptable risk. Then it depends on the risks, but right. So this initial conversation with my customers is always, with my clients, is always about think of the risk you're taking and think of what it makes sense to do, right? And do not trust your intuition, because you are subject to cognitive biases. And therefore, we go to the solution, and the solution is very much in the Kanban method, because Kanban method is helping us to become more predictable, and in the end also to deliver more quality. In a way, quality is something that comes as a bonus to predictability, because if we become more predictable, if we work within a more predictable system, then we can concentrate much more on what we do, we can focus, and we become more reliable also from the quality point of view. So next conversation I have with my clients is, okay, let's shift the perspective, and let's start talking about getting an acceptable risk, right? So what I challenge them to do is start reasoning, start thinking from the other way around. So what probability of being late are your customers willing to accept? Let's start from that. And then from that, we go and pick the percentile that is suitable for that value. The interesting thing is that I find myself to do this kind of discuss, to have this kind of conversation also with people who have SLAs, service level agreements in place, and maybe they're also complaining about the fact they are not able to fulfill the service level they have agreed with the customer. Guess why? I mean, you're risking too much. I mean, because sometimes the conversation starts, but on what basis you have defined your service level agreements? And they say, well, we have agreed it. Okay, because we think we can do it. Okay, but are you sure you can do it? Right? So then we come to this discussion. So instead, what we have to do is to start with this kind of measuring. We have to measure from the past what actually we are able to deliver, how the distribution is, and then starting from there, we can actually start defining a service level agreement. So, as I said, a good measure is the 85th percentile. Which means that we have 15% of probability of being late. Though beware, because in a couple of slides, there is an example, a real life example, that something that I've done with a client of mine, where actually we have been we have had to take a value which is higher. We have ended up with a 95% or something, because it's a very critical service and we can't afford to take a 15% of risk. I mean, it's a business critical service. There are legal implications, and 5% of risk is acceptable, but it's somewhat high, right? So it depends on really what type of risk you want to take, and you can afford to take. But that's not enough, because okay, we take 15% of risk, but very often what I find myself, and the picture you see on the right is a real life example of a service desk where they were supposed to have also service level agreements in place and so on. And I say, okay, but watch out that your curve and your distribution has a long tail, has what is called the fat tail. Sorry, the fat tail is a distribution which has a long pronounced tail extended out to the right, right? What's the risk the inherent risk of a fat tail? Is that, yes, of course, the 85th percentile here in our example is 9 days. So I can promise you that, Mr. Customer, that I do things in 9 days. And I take just 15% of risk of being late. But one thing is that if I'm late, I take 10, 12, 15, even 20 days. And another thing is, as in the example, if I'm late, I may be 40 days late, 30 days, 50 days late. I mean, out to the right, there are very high values, because it takes a minute to lose the trust of the customer, because the customer says, oh, hang on a minute, okay, you're not that often late, but what happens if you're late? I have to wait for 2 months or what? So that's so what we have to do is to, as we say in Kanban, to trim the tail, to get the thing, to get the tail to become shorter and shorter, and end up with a thin tail distribution. So something very, very short. There is a ratio that has to be kept between the tail and the median that has to be not beyond 5.6. So something that has to be maintained and then can be checked. But basically, the idea is that we need to do this, right? And in Kanban, we do this using the WIP limit. Well, actually, what we do with my clients is we do two things. One thing is to analyze the tail, because the tail is typically made of few single values, and few single values you can afford to analyze one by one, and you analyze those values and you understand the situations where those long lead times have occurred, and you can understand what has happened over there. You can understand which was the issue, and you can address it. And if you can address it, then the next time you have probably something that has not happening. You don't have that long tail again, so you can understand. You can reduce the tail, you can trim the tail. But that's not enough, because sometimes lead times are long just because there are things that have get started, but that they are forgotten in progress and then finished, because there's no focus on finishing things. One of the mottos of the Kanban University is stop starting, start finishing. So one thing that we need to do is to set a rule that forces us to limit how much stuff we have in progress, how many work items we have in progress, in order that we focus on those few work items, and instead of keeping starting new things, we focus on finishing those items that are in progress, and we can actually deliver. And one thing that happens is that you see the two pictures. You pass from a situation above where you have a lot of stuff in progress, and but you see that here the curve is in the just let me get the pointer. Yep, you see here that the values are scattered, so you have a long tail. Actually, you have a fat tail. And so you really can't say which value to take, because the spread is very large. To a situation, thanks to the WIP limits, you can see this in a simulation. Again, in a Kanban University training, you can experiment this and see yourself that how it works. And you can end up with values which are very much more grouped together, and therefore you can actually take an 85th percentile, which makes sense, because in the example here above, there's also the problem that if you go to take this value, which I can read correctly is 18, for one work item that may even take 2 days to finish, to take as a measure of hedging the risk, if you take 18, probably the customer is not accepting the value. For a work that takes a few days, I cannot ask a month to my customer. I mean, they say you must be joking. I mean, right? So not to joke, you take a risk which is too high. So that's actually the conundrum that has to be and is sorted out by the WIP limits. So that's what happens with with the application of Kanban and of the WIP limits. It's not just the WIP limits. The main thing is the WIP limits, but it's not just that. There are actually six general practices, which has then become more than 150 in detail to help you to improve the flow and get the things working better and better over time, right? So this is just the beginning, right? To get the thing working in a better way. So and then what happens is that you see that in the done column, in the above done column, there are less done work items than in the below example. And that's another thing that happens, is that and this is another counterintuitive concept, that if you constrain the capacity, so if you limit the work in progress, you go faster and you finish more things because you focus on finishing things and more things get done. So you have two benefits, two outcomes, which are getting shorter WIP limits to promise to your customer, more and more reliable, right? And then you get more work done, right? So the throughput, as it's called in Kanban, so the delivery rate, how many work item per unit of time are delivered, improves, right? And you can try this just with a simulation, but and it works in a simulation as well. But in real life, then you reduce also context switching. So you stop jumping from one work to another, and the delivery rates increase even more. And moreover, because you focus on a few things at a time, you're improving quality over time, right? Because you end up having a sustainable pace, reliable pace. You are relieved by the pressure, and then you can focus and quality improves. Here you have a real life example that occurred to me. Here I just mention a few facts about the case, but there is the full case study that you can read on Kanban Plus. And I think is for free, so you can go on, follow that link and get. But if you subscribe to Kanban Plus, you can read it and you can find it. It's called HR-Grow. And with this company, those two charts on the right are the above one is not really the beginning, but because at the beginning we had the values scattered across between 1 and 96 days. Can you imagine? I mean, it was a nightmare. So this was an onboarding for people in HR department, and they were taking between 1 and 96 days to onboard people, and the whole thing was totally unreliable. And so we have passed. We have moved from and we have changed, but from no predictability to 97% of onboarding done within 6 days, right? So predictable and also with a low level of risk, which has been reduced to 3%, which is acceptable by their standards, because they have legal implication. Because when you're onboarding people, you cannot send really people to work without a contract. It's illegal. So you get fines and you get too many risks. So that's how it was. So and actually, given that they had already their workflow system, we have not even used the Kanban board. We have used their workflow system as the Kanban system. So basically, we have just introduced many practices of Kanban on their own system, which was already in place. So, and doing this journey, we have standardized the workflow activities. This has enabled scalability. So this is a growing company, so the whole thing has been growing. We are able to predict workloads in the future. So where there are peaks, we can forecast the peaks and get more people to do the job. And they all has been done with more or less a year and no big investment, because also myself as a consultant were not I was not requested that much. So if you want to see this real life example, you can read it in full on Kanban Plus. And that's it. So basically, the question this time the question is to you is, do you want to make your business better through predictable, high quality professional services? If the answer is yes, Kanban method offers a pragmatic and evolutionary way to improve your business. So that's basically the takeaway of my presentation today. So we can help you. Here we are. So that's more or less it. Thank you for listening to me, and I pass back the ball to Diana for a few other things.
Great, thank you so much. I will just take a few minutes of your time to guide you on how you can continue learning. And meanwhile, you can write your questions and in Q&A chat, so we can pick them up in the end. Thank you, Marco, for your insightful presentation. I think we really got a lot out of it. And if you're in the beginning of your Kanban journey, you maybe your question now yourself, like, okay, what should I do next? How should I learn how to build my Kanban system? How should I learn how to get all those data to be able to analyze my processes? So we have obviously an answer for you, and you can always reach out to Kanban University through their webpage and check the classes, because there is a schedule of classes from Kanban University trainers from all over the world that will provide you the classes that can teach you to do all that, to establish your Kanban system and to get the right data to analyze your processes, to be predictable and to improve your quality. So here is a website that you can visit and check all the information. If you're just starting, you can go to resources, check the blog, and also get official Kanban guide, which is downloadable in PDF, that has all the guidance about the main principles and practices of the Kanban method. Also, you can visit David G. Anderson School of Management, where you will find classes that may be a bit different, because the first interactions of new classes, maybe some updates, are going first there. You can also get classes from David Anderson himself with School of Management. You can check the schedule and also check the blogs. They have a lot of interesting things there. But separately, I would like to underline our Kanban Plus learning platform because it has all the information about Kanban methods that you can ever need. You can start with BVK Plus and learn how the Kanban method was actually created. You can explore Kanban maturity model to understand how you can move with your transformation and you improve your processes, what practices you need to have in order to move forward, or fit for purpose framework, which will explain you how to build customer-centric services. Also, we have an appraisal tool that is a great way to analyze your processes and it will help you. Like we really think that this is a game changer because appraisal tool helps you to involve people into the transformation. It provides you with an opportunity to go step by step through your practices and see how you evolve over the time, make a snapshots. It also helps to communicate to stakeholders and see what you have achieved. So I really advise look into the appraisal tool for those who want to make the appraisal of their transformation as something that they do on the constant basis to move forward, rather than something that they just have done once and forgot about it. Also, I would like to tell you that right now we have a special month in July. We have a special offer for our corporate subscriptions. There is still time to participate in it as it's the 23rd today. And if you get this month's corporate subscription, you will get a smart pricing. And corporate subscription has advantages because it provides you with a custom onboarding. You can have admin control among users. And also we will provide you a private community space if you need it, if you prefer to discuss your transformation in a private space further from any distractions. So we encourage you to visit our websites. And if you have any questions, we are happy to take them over right now. Okay, we have a question from Matthew. Marco, let's have a look.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Matthew, for your question. Yes, Matthew is asking, you talk a lot about lead time in your presentation. I see similar practices for cycle times. The cycle time is in progress and done. So is the time it takes to get the work item done, excluding the queue, right? So, and Matthew is asking, are there any tips or things that you would say are important to take into account that are different than in lead time analysis? Well, basically, actually, I've not been talking about the cycle time, but that's another thing that we have to address. And at some stage, we have to start distinguishing between lead time and cycle time, because I normally start with lead time, which is a gross measure of what people are doing, and is also what the customer is watching and asking for. And very often the people I'm talking to are not, if I go and measure the cycle time, I find very often that they are very good at cycle time because they've improved their way of working in some way, and they are very efficient in doing the work. Not always, but it happens. But they're not taking care at all of the queue. So, and they're not considering at all that things are coming in, and then they sit on the queue for a long time, and then they are very fast in delivering it, but the customer has been waiting for a long time. So I want to take their attention and focus their attention on the fact that the customer is watching the lead time, not the cycle time. Then, of course, so basically, in my own, as of my own experience, what I suggest is the concepts are more or less the same if you have an issue with the cycle time. So you have to get the tail to be trimmed if you have a fat tail, and you have to end up with a thin tail. But the reality of the things is that very often I find myself that if I go and assess the cycle time, I find very little problems in the cycle times, or less problems in the cycle times than in the lead time. And sometimes what I do is I ask them to concentrate on only the queue and start measuring only the distribution, the time distribution of the queue, and start analyzing what happens in the queue. And I get them to work on what is called upstream Kanban. So he's working on the upstream thing, right? To understand what's going on there, and to address that. And that, because probably you need some to define some classes of services, as they're called. Classes of services are based on the cost of delay. So how long things can stay and sit in the queue and wait for being processed. Because sometimes you have things that has to be expedite because they have a high cost of delay, and some other times you have things that can wait because they have a low cost of delay, and so on. So to make the story short, basically I use the same criteria, except that when it comes to analyze the cycle time, I use it very often, in my experience, to focus on the queue. Because very often the problem is there.
Okay, I see,
I see.
a hand raised. I will allow Abraham to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah,
Hi.
loud and clear.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, no, just to be honest, I have a lot of experience working with the Scrum, right? And one of the main complaints now in a very dynamic environment where companies are looking for to be more streamlined in their process and speed and rapid, if you will. I have a lot of questions on the management saying the always question about Scrum, right? You have a lot of ceremonies to do and meetings in which you have planning, retrospectives, groomings, things like that, right? Does it represent on the Kanban side reduction on this overhead, if you will, in terms of meetings and ceremonies? Is there any streamlined way to manage that? What is the experience on operationalize this?
First thing first is that when you start applying Kanban, you stop grooming the backlog, and because basically it's we are working on the concept of cost of delay. So and actually, if you apply lean to its logical consequence, is you don't want to put too much effort on grooming the backlog, because basically there is the high risk that is a waste, right? Because by the time you start doing things and you put those things into the next sprint to be done, and then things have been changing many times, and so you have been doing the reshuffling of the backlog many times. So basically in Kanban, what we do is to assign a class of service, and that's it. And then you pick and go. So in Kanban, we tend to get rid of all the overburdening of. Yes, we have cadences, right? In some way, you still have the team Kanban meeting is is very similar to the daily Scrum, but the point is that you keep things to a minimum, which is pragmatic and actionable, right? So if I see a big difference with in improving Scrum is that we get rid of all the the overhead which is not necessary. Some overhead is necessary. I mean, you need some cadences to synchronize the work, yeah, but you don't need to be can't get the word now, but it's not something which is prescriptive. I mean, you have to find your own way to make it the more efficient you can. And then there is another thing with sprints. Another issue with sprints is that the sprint is always too long or too short, in my experience, right? Because if you have a big work item, then you have to split it into small chunks. And yes, that's fine, but you create dependencies within the work item. So you are growing the number of dependencies. And if you have a small work item, you have to, maybe the sprint is too long because you have to wait until the end of the sprint to deliver it. So why bothering with waiting until the end? So here we have the idea of the continuous flow. So imagine it as reducing the length of the sprints shorter and shorter until you get to the point where you take things one at a time and you start measuring how long does it take to do things, right? And that's becoming a very reliable way of working because you have a stable flow. There is a value in Kanban, there is value of flow that you want to have a stable and steady flow, and then that's the most efficient thing you can do actually, because you don't have bumps. You have because another thing with sprints, in my experience as well, is that if you have a 15 days sprint, then you have bumps because you tend to relax at the beginning of the sprint, and then you start rushing in the middle, and then you rush at the end because you have to finish, and then you have a bumpy ride, right? With a steady flow, you start doing things in a way that you can sustain forever, ideally, right? Then you have things coming, reissues, and factors from outside. But you basically it's becoming managing risk rather than following a prescriptive way of working. That's basically. Said that, if you do Scrum, actually you can do Kanban within a sprint, and then you get the thing working steadily. In fact, you're improving Kanban with.
Thank you. So basically, what I'm understanding from you is that there is not a prescripted set of ceremonies. You basically the team is allowed to call whatever meeting is needed to ensure that flow continue going. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, the Kanban system has to be developed by the team and has to be tailored to its unique way of being. That's what I mean. And I cannot see, even within my set of clients, I cannot see two implementation of Kanban which are the same, because it's very much the team people, the member of the team, to decide how they want to do things. And I mean, we have 9 cadences which have been codified, but then you have to decide how you do them, and you can collapse them into one thing. You are not compelled to do the team Kanban meeting and the replenishment meeting and the service delivery review. And yes, you have a framework, but you can decide. In some of my application, I have those things collapsed into one single meeting, which maybe is already existing.
Marco, sorry for interrupting. Maybe a question from the lady who is in the background working here is, what is the, maybe you can put that in the chat, what is the training that I can take from Kanban University if I want to apply Kanban from scratch, meaning an organization that doesn't have an idea how to do it, and I need to teach them how to do it from scratch and put all the things from grounds, right? From zero ground. So if you point me out to the training that is helping me to that, please, I would like to explore more. Thank you.
If
okay.
there's a lady behind you, do you mean me?
Yes, Diana, sorry.
Okay, Abraham. Well, first of all, meanwhile you were chatting with Marco, I have shared a link to a class on Kanban University website that teaches you how to apply Kanban with a Scrum together, because like we already know and we recognize it in a lot of companies, people work with Scrum and they're used to it, and they probably cannot or don't want to change it. So that's why you can also take this course to learn what you can apply from Kanban on top of your current Scrum implementation. So you will have also practices that will improve your current Scrum implementation. However, if you want to learn Kanban from scratch, obviously you will need to go from the beginning and to like establish your Kanban system. So for that, you will need to go through a static process. This is mainly the beginner classes of Kanban University agenda. You can check on the Kanban University website because I think it's Kanban Management Professional level courses. If you want, Abraham, you can message me afterwards. In like on Kanban Plus, you can have a support like contact us window, and if you're gonna just message me, I'm gonna take it over, and I will just send you precise links on what you need.
Thank you, really appreciate that, and thank you,
Sure.
Marco, for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
Our pleasure. Okay, well, time-wise, we need to wrap up. It was 1 hour webinar. I really hope you like it. For me, it was a pleasure to work with you, Marco, about this webinar. I think all the insights that you have shared, they are really useful and valuable. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your questions as well. If you would like to continue a conversation, we are always there for you. You can contact us through our websites, just contact us button. That all goes to us, so we are the replying all those questions, and we will be happy to take over. Thank you so much, and
Thank you
have a
very much.
pleasant day and evening.
Yep. Enjoy your day.